tune into news across the galaxy where they talk all things LA Galaxy with the Nag Boys. Let's start nagging.
Live.
Galaxy presents the MidWeek show. I'm your host, Brian, the guy that sometimes plays soccer. And of course, joining me, as always, is Mr. Edgar Zuniga. How you doing, sir?
Hey, it's a midweek show. It's funny. I really thought I was going to be at the stadium tonight, but I'm not. But we're still here hanging out with some people from Leon. So let's get to it.
Yeah, we got two special guests all the way from the Lions Den podcast. Go ahead and introduce yourselves.
You want to go
ahead,
first,
Gotti.
Hey guys, I'm Gotti from the Lions Den podcast. Excited to be here talking in preview, obviously, with this whole crazy madness that's been going on. I'm sure we'll talk about what happened to the game. But yeah, I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, always have to let the boss and founder and producer and head honcho go first. I'm Louis, better known by many by my hashtag Fiero Viajero. Self-proclaimed, but I mean, I think at this point I got the cred to call myself that, having traveled to as many games as I have. Sad not to be in Carson for what was going to be today's match, going to be tomorrow's match now. But happy to be here with you guys to talk Galaxy Leon. Should be a lot of fun.
Yes, sir. But let me start off by saying congratulations to your team for being the kings of CONCACAF and taking out the most annoying team in MLS with the most annoying fans in MLS. Thank you for that. Because we wouldn't have heard the end of it if if they would have won. It wouldn't have been so great for us. It would have been.
You're more than welcome. Anytime.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Like I think that day, everybody except for that little corner of South Central LA was all like Leon fans. Everybody was cheering for Leon, and when Leon won, there was like a huge collective sigh all across the US and Canada. So thank you guys so much.
Yeah. I mean, at least 40% of the stadium was too. I had the good fortune of being in attendance for that final. And it was a magical, electric evening, and I'll never get tired of talking about it. So I'm glad we're on a pod with folks who are who I know are receptive to the events of that day.
Yes,
yeah. 100%. Welcome to the club, by the way, the CONCACAF Champions Club.
Yeah, welcome to the club.
It's an exclusive club, and we fought for a long time to be a part of it, and now we are. But now we gotta keep winning. Otherwise we don't get the respect we deserve for that accomplishment, I feel.
Yeah, it's interesting. Oh, sorry, I was gonna say it's interesting you mentioned that because for all of Leon's accomplishments, I was actually surprised that was the first time that Leon won the Champions League or Champions Cup, whatever we're calling it these days, because it seems for like the last decade and a half or so, Leon has maintained a certain level within Liga MX, and there's a lot of expectations that come with that as well. So for me to look back and look at the pantheon of champions, CONCACAF, most of them obviously being in Liga MX, and you see Leon with only one, I was like, no way, this can't be right. It seems kind of interesting that
it seems like we should have won one a long time ago. But it didn't happen. That was our coco. That was the thing hanging over, the biggest thing hanging over all of our heads, that that we just couldn't be considered part of the upper tier of Liga MX clubs because we just didn't have that. And then it got even worse when Tigres, who we've been battling with over the past decade for like who's had the better decade. I think most people would say Tigres has. If not for them, I mean, Leon is up there, and their CONCACAF Champions win a harder path to that CONCACAF Champions title than I think Tigres had when they won theirs, but that's a debate for another day. But I mean, I think that CONCACAF Champions win, I mean, at least puts us in the same conversation as Tigres, but a lot of people just don't see it that way, and that's one of the reasons I find this Leagues Cup and any international tournaments that remain for us to play that are immediately coming in front of us. That, and of course, the Mundial de Clubes that's coming up in December. I mean, it's very, very important that we continue to do well in these competitions so that we can still continue to raise our stock and be talked about in the same terms as teams like Tigres are, and that are thrusting us into that upper echelon, that new upper echelon of Liga MX clubs.
Yeah, and Gary, I was going to ask you, how, I mean, with the Leagues Cup being what it is, because it seemed to me for a while everybody was trying to figure out what it was. Like where do you place it? You know, is it above or below Champions League? And now that we're seeing the first tastes of it, how would you gauge what this tournament is like? And do you think it stacks up to the Champions League?
Funny because me and Louis were going at it at the pod yesterday about some agreeing and disagreeing with the tournament, because I mean I've always been very transparent. I'm not a huge MLS fan. I don't have a team. I don't really watch it. I don't really engage with it. Obviously, in these tournaments that have been coming along, because Leon is in it. So to be quite frank, I'm not sure where that would be. Even with our conversation yesterday in the pod, Javi, one of our other person from the pod, was talking about, obviously Leagues Cup, you throw in every single team, and kind of just like the logistics of everything, and where MLS is at, where Liga MX is at, and obviously Liga MX started and had a pause and stuff like that. So what's the right timing? Is it the right amount of teams? Is it the right format? My huge disagreements with it was, well, all the Liga MX teams are away. Whatever you want to say, oh, then this game they're home and away. I mean, from what I think, Liga MX has a disadvantage on that, because it's not the same as feeling at home with your fans. You know what I mean? It's very different, ground, your stadium, your people. I mean, all Liga MX teams, they have to travel. Obviously, we ran into the situation that Leon had, but it's all, travel, and now we're here, now we're there. And, for the most part, the MLS teams have, they're home and have their nice charter and their quick trips and stuff like that. So I don't know. On that scale, I don't know. Maybe I'll leave Louis the question, see what you think, Louis, of putting Leagues Cup in CCL.
Actually, I was going to add, when I first heard about the tournament, I actually thought it would be a sort of warm up for the World Cup, I guess, or warm up for Copa America, where you would have some of the Mexican teams hosting at home and trying to see what kind of crowds they would draw, and in preparation for the World Cup, trying to figure out the infrastructure, the logistics that would go into all that. And then when you see it's just the US again, that's when we were like, yeah, it's a cash grab. It's a cash grab. That's 100%. What it's been. It's a summer tournament. It's a cash grab, except it's just much bigger. It interrupts the MLS season. I know some of the podcasts that we've been talking to, they see it as like a good opportunity for their teams to just take a break. And then their teams are actually trying to win it. And they're like, no, relax, guys, take a break. And then some of them see it as an opportunity to win something when their season was completely lost. And we're seeing now Inter Miami, because before Messi and Busquets showed up, they were dead in the water. And now you look at it, we're like, what the hell? Who are these guys? Even in MLS, we're like, who the hell are these guys? They're like, they got a Phoenix down, they're rising from the dead, Final Fantasy style. So anyway, go on, Louis, you were going to say something?
Yeah. I mean, Kari and I don't see eye to eye on everything that this tournament is. But I mean, we're definitely in agreement that no, it is not anywhere close to the level of what Conca Champions is, for a number of reasons. First of all, the big prize for winning this tournament, or having a good performance in this tournament, is that you qualify for the CONCACAF Champions League. So, I mean, in that sense, you're basically talking about a tournament that is the qualifying round for what is now going to be an expanded CONCACAF Champions League. I mean, if ever there's an argument that it might have been on par with CONCACAF Champions League before, which I don't think it even was, but it certainly won't be now, because the CONCACAF Champions League is being expanded. It will be harder to win now than it ever has been before. But still, I mean, I just don't think you can compare the two. One has a ton of history, one has a ton of fanfare, and the other, we're basically just getting off the ground. But I will say this, in one sense, it's a much more difficult tournament to win, than the CONCACAF Champions League. When you think about how many teams you have to go through to get to the final, and how little margin for error you have, a group stage is only 2 games. If you lose one of those 2 games outright, you basically have no chance to move on. It's very, you're on very, very shaky ground. You have to have a good performance right off the bat. It seems like it was silly that, Leon's first match of this tournament against Vancouver went to a 38-round penalty shootout for what? For 1 extra point in the standings, which it wasn't even for the chance to move on or not. It was just for 1 extra point in the group standings, which is very unusual. I don't think there's any other tournament in the world that has a format that strange. And you can say a lot of things about that. But in the end of the day, that extra point that we got in Vancouver could prove crucial, because you only play 2 games in this group stage. There's so little margin for error. And normally in a regular CONCACAF Champions League, you have 3 other Liga MX clubs and a few MLS clubs to go through. In this instance, you have every Liga MX club and every MLS club potentially to go through. So in that sense, there is a lot of pride in winning a tournament like that. And in one sense, it's a lot more difficult to win than a standard CONCACAF Champions League /Cup, as we've seen it in the past, since 2008, 2009, whenever it was that the CONCACAF Champions League began the format that it currently uses. So, I think there's that to consider. The other thing to consider is, as Liga MX and MLS fans, this is all we've got right now. Our seasons are on hold. There is nothing else that we're doing at this moment than this tournament. This is what we have. This is the only thing to talk about. And, so we might as well give it the peso that it deserves, because it's the only thing we've got going on right now. It's the only thing. There's no MLS season. And just to play on one last thing, what you said, Edgar, about teams that have a chance to win something. Looking at your LA Galaxy, and my MLS club is the Portland Timbers. Just an aside, I was born and raised in Portland, Oregon. My MLS club is the Portland Timbers. You look at those Western Conference standings in an MLS play, you're not going to like where you see the Galaxy and the Portland Timbers right now. There's just an opportunity for both of those clubs to do something. And Timbers had a good start against probably a better team right now in San Jose Earthquakes. They got 3 points against them, and vibes are good in Portland right now. Just as vibes, I'm sure, would be in LA were the Galaxy to get 3 points in this first match, despite how things are going in MLS play. You put all that aside, you have a chance to do something transcendent in a completely new stage. Everything is wiped out where everyone's back to zero. And I think there's merit. There's a value in that. I really do think there's value in that.
I want to give a little pushback on what you said about the competition. In particular, with our LA Galaxy, seeing how depleted the squad is and how many injuries we got, you're not getting your best players out there and to compete and actually make a run for this type of tournament. And if you wanted a Champions League berth in MLS, you could go through the Open Cup, which is an easier route. I don't see how this benefits any team that's short-staffed with their roster, in particular the LA Galaxy. For me, this is just one of those tournaments that you throw the kids out there and see what you could get from that. And then when MLS play comes back, you go for the cup. For me, I'm not a big fan of the LA Galaxy going for this tournament, specifically because of that depth problem that we have right now. And I'm pretty sure other teams that are actually in line to compete for an MLS Cup aren't going to throw their best players out there. We see Miami, who's not doing anything, put in their best because they have to get something. Unlike everybody else who's like right now, the LA Galaxy is making a run for this playoff, whether we like to believe it or not. And in MLS, as long as you get to the playoffs, anything can really happen. And then there's those teams like Miami that don't really have anything going for them. I also want to give another pushback on the home advantage, because we've seen when every time that Mexican teams come to MLS, the crowds from MLS to Liga MX teams, it's Liga MX teams, they always show up. So I don't really see how that could be a disadvantage for the Mexican teams when usually in numbers, Liga MX team fans show up in numbers.
But it's not just about.
It's not the
I think
same.
it's the travel.
No. But it's the advantage. It doesn't just refer to what percentage of fans in the stands are for which team. I mean, León has been traveling constantly for the past week. They've been in hotels. They've been in airports whereas Galaxy have been at home resting in their beds. I mean, and it's the same for every MLS club. They're playing in their home stadiums. I mean, aside from a few that have had to play away games, but they went and then they came back to their base of operations. Whereas these Mexican clubs, these Liga MX clubs, have been constantly traveling, and they haven't been sleeping in their beds. They haven't been with their families. I mean, those things are. I mean, you can argue all day about how much those things matter, but I mean, the advantage isn't just about who's supporting the team, which team in the stands. It's that plays in a major role into that too. I mean, and you just look at what happened with Leon and they're being stranded in the airport in Vancouver for as long as they were. I mean, that's a disadvantage that they would not have had if they had been if their next game up were at home. I mean, if they were playing at home. I mean, that's just not something that would have happened. You know what I mean?
Edgar?
No, I was going to say that. Yeah, well, I mean, one of the things that the Liga MX teams have here is that no matter where they go, they're going to draw well. Although I remember like earlier in the season when we heard about the whole format of the tournament, I was joking like, yeah, let's wait and see, what kind of crowd Mazatlan versus RSL draws in Sandy, Utah, like on a Wednesday evening. I mean, that's going to fill up the stadium, right? No, but you come to LA. I mean, LA. No, it doesn't matter who you bring over here. Fans, Liga MX fans are going to show up. So I expect the Leon versus Galaxy match to be a good draw. I mean, we'll know for sure in 24 hours. But you're absolutely correct. I mean, I think Brian, the most important thing we got to take into consideration is that they are playing away from their home, their homeland, their home cities.
Yeah.
And you got to travel. And let me tell you, man, when you travel across the country, like I just did, like I was in Charlotte for like a couple of weeks. You look at it, you're like 5.5 hour flight, but when you're in that airplane and that you hear that droning and you want to get up and move around and get some fresh air. I don't say I'm claustrophobic, but after a while you're like, damn, I want to get out of here. And then having to travel across the country back and forth and live out of hotels, live out of your suitcase. Yeah, it starts to wear on you. So I can see what I can definitely empathize with that. But transitioning to the upcoming match, I know that the Liga MX season practically just started, right? It's like 3-4 games in, right? And
games in.
We were talking about how the League's Cup potentially disrupts the MLS season. And I remember joking about, hey, guys, when the Galaxy was really down, I was thinking, hey, what if they finally start to get it together? What if they finally, start going on a streak? And all of a sudden, here comes Leagues Cup and interrupts everything, and then they come back and they're completely flat. And they did lose their last match against Vancouver, of all teams, but they were on a run. And so now the question is, how are they gonna resume once MLS, starts? But by the same token, how does this affect teams like Leon and other Liga MX teams when you're just getting the season started? You think this is an advantage, or do you think this is something that it's just so abnormal it's not going to work?
Well, I mean, it kind of teams from their respective leagues, so the MLS teams basically at this point in the season basically know what they are and what their aspirations are in league play, whereas in Leon, in Liga MX, it's not necessarily like that. I mean, things are just getting going. Leon has 3 points out of their first 3 matches, which is not great by any stretch, but they're still expected to be one of the contenders for the title when the season is over. And, that could be their thought. At the same time, we're talking about Conca Champions before. We don't have the US Open Cup. We don't have the Copa MX anymore. And even when we did, that did not grant a CCL berth. The only way before to get into CCL as Liga MX club was within the Año Futbolístico, make a final. And we didn't do that. So we are the defending CCL champions, but our only path to defending that title in 2024 is to finish in one of the top 3 spots in the Leagues Cup. So, I don't know how much they're valuing that. I'm personally valuing that a lot, and I want the team to have a good run in the tournament for that very reason, because the CCL run in 2023 was magical. And what I want more than anything is to be able to follow that that again, go to be in Panama, then and 2 weeks later in Dominican Republic, and 2 weeks later in Monterrey. Like there was nothing like that for me. This run, so much happened. I'm not going to get into it. It's a long and arduous journey that I had, and a long story to tell. I'm not going to get into that here, but I want that again, and I really hope our team takes it seriously for that reason. But I mean, and then you have teams like Mazatlan. Mazatlan is I'm just going to say this here. Sorry to the 5 Mazatlan fans out there. Mazatlan is the worst team in Liga MX, and it's not particularly close.
Leave Mazatlan alone. Okay, I told you I'm Liga MX team's ride or die throughout this tournament, and they did it. They did what Pumas couldn't, what Puebla couldn't.
But Kari, yes, they did. But they're the worst team in Liga MX, and it's not close. And yet, they just assured themselves of winning their group in Leagues Cup by their penalty shootout win over Juarez at Q2 Stadium in Austin. And, teams like that clearly are really valuing this tournament, because Mazatlan is not going to do anything in Liga MX, much less in CCL, ever, anytime soon. I mean, unless drastic changes are made in that organization. So this is a real opportunity for them, and clearly they're wanting to make the most of it. Obviously, they could be eliminated in the first knockout game, and then we won't remember any of this. But for now, they're clearly a team that has done unexpectedly well, and I think it's because they are prioritizing this, because they know it's a chance, like you said before, it's a chance to win something.
You're muted, Edgar.
Sorry. Rookie mistake. So I saw that group with Mazatlan, Austin, and Juarez, and I was like, damn, that's like that's like the group that's like in the back of the classroom and they're messing around and not paying attention, but it is interesting because Austin's had like I spoke to some Austin fans before the Galaxy game against them, and Galaxy at that point was winless in the entire season, and they were completely going off the rails at that point, and even they were like, "Yeah, we expect you guys to beat us," and the Galaxy did. It was kind of sad. Austin's had such a weird season. They went from being one of the better teams last season, completely melted down in the playoffs versus LAFC, and this season they've been so weird. They were down, then they were up, and nobody really knows like where they're headed at this point.
They got eliminated by Violette, the Haitian club in CCL.
Yeah.
That's all you need to know. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
that was mad.
No, that was
now,
funny.
I'm not going to brag because Leon did lose a game to that. I mean, they easily won the tie, but they lost one game in that set to Violette. So I'm not gonna boast too much about that.
Kari, same question to you, Kari. 3 games into the season in Liga MX, how does this affect or does it affect Leon in this Leagues Cup?
I'm hoping it gives them a bit of a restart to the season. Obviously, in the first jornada we lost against Chivas, which is Luis' most hated team. Which I'm like, it's Chivas. And down in the season. I'm just really curious just to see, I guess, how they do this run in Leagues Cup, and also with the news of Victor Davila leaving, which Larcamon came out and said today that his last game with Leon was versus Vancouver, so not expecting Davila at all from now on. So obviously we were talking in our pod questioning what's going to happen. Are they going to scout anybody? Obviously the Liga MX transfer between teams is over. But if the amount that they say for what Davila is bringing in, are we gonna put that into back into the institution, or are they actually going to get a Lasso looking ahead of the Mundial later this year? So I'm just very curious to see what's going to happen. I'm hoping, I'm again, like whatever happens. I guess what excites me is just this Larcamon, Leon, because obviously, he's brought a lot of great energy, a lot of great character to these players. It's just, obviously we had our ups and downs last season, but for the most part, I mean, it's a good team. It's a really good team. If we go far, great. But I'm definitely curious to see what's going to happen with the whole Davila situation. Si hay reemplazo, no hay reemplazo. and kind of if they're going to do anything about that. So
yeah. For those who maybe
what
aren't as familiar with Leon's roster, Victor Davila was the MVP of the CONCACAF Champions League. He was named so after the final against LA, one of our better players. And so it's not just any loss. It's a pretty big loss that we're going to have to figure out what to do with. But, you know, I compare Leon to the Moneyball A's teams of the early 2000s. Like they're greater than the sum of their parts. And we have a really good scouting department. They always find pieces that nobody's ever heard of prior to joining the club, and they flourish. Anytime we've won something, anytime we've done good things, this CCL was no different. Our most recent league title in pleno COVID back in 2020 was the same thing. I mean, when we've done well, it's been when the team has been greater than the sum of their parts. And even if Davila leaves, I think we are still a team that is greater than the sum of its parts, and we still have a lot of great pieces. But yeah, that is a big loss. They're going to have to figure out how to deal with that. We'll see if it happens during this Leagues Cup run, or if we're going to have to wait till after we are eliminated to deal with that. I'm not really sure how that's going to work. But yeah, we haven't been able to escape big news surrounding the club regarding transfers and things like that. When really what we really want to be doing is playing and having good results and getting over that championship hangover, which was clearly evident in the first couple games, and getting back to playing our game. But it's been tough. And then, we have delays in airports, and they just don't want us to find a rhythm right now.
You have a theory on that. Expand on that theory.
Well, the official report was for those who don't follow Leon closely and don't know, Leon was stranded for the better part of a day, if not more, in the Vancouver airport, waiting for their charter flight, purportedly provided by the Leagues Cup organizers from Vancouver to Los Angeles for the next matchup with Galaxy. And the official report is that it was a mechanical failure with the aircraft that kept them from being able to take off until late into the evening, the day before they were supposed to play, leading to eventually probably the fairest results or the fairest outcome for everyone involved, postponing the match one day, which is why we're on here talking to you now and not watching that game right at this very moment. But yeah, I mean, I'm sorry, but I could be just making up conspiracy theories. I could be pulling things out of where, but it seems like too convenient of a solution, a mechanical error with the aircraft. And if that were the case, why didn't they get them another flight? I mean, I think there are quite a number of flights leaving from Vancouver to Los Angeles every day. I feel like there's another way they could have gotten them there sooner. To me, this just seems like what this really does, whether my conspiracy theory that it was something more than just a simple mechanical error is true or not, I think this goes to show how far this tournament still has to go in terms of its logistics and organizing. Like it's still in its infancy. They're getting it off the ground. Obviously, there were tournaments going by this name that already existed, but nothing like what they're trying to do now. And there's going to be some kinks, and it's not perfect. And this Leon, unfortunately, was the first major where they were the victims in the situation that turned out to be the first major example of how far this tournament still has to go to get its stuff together. To say the
there
least.
You go.
You know,
more tinfoil hat conspiracies.
Yeah,
Leagues Cup organizers want Miami to win the whole thing.
Yes.
Yeah. I know Cotty's in favor of that theory.
Yes, because that foul was not a foul. And then what we were joking about in the pod, which one of our I don't know if it was Arturo or someone on the golazo against that Vancouver.
Oh no,
game.
We're losing her.
Sorry,
Cotty, you keep breaking up a little bit.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, you're
I just saw internet is unstable. No. I mean, especially in that game against Cruzoso, I mean, that was not a foul. And I will stand by it. But obviously, they had to have a perfect ending, a perfect opening game. Everything went as they wanted it. So
banger though. It was a banger. You can't.
It was a banger. It was a banger. But
it was against Jurado. Like he's not the best goalie, unfortunately. Like
No, and Kari and I are both on record that no matter how good that goal was, Elias Hernandez against Vancouver, his goal was better.
Yes.
We'll see that in ESPN top 10, hopefully.
So
because
guys,
it was in the run of play, first of all. And I mean, I think it was, I mean, the degree of difficulty, I think, was harder, was higher.
But it's Messi. Of course, they're going to give it to Messi.
Yeah.
That's the only unfortunate part about it. Go ahead, Edgar.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you guys are talking about losing one of the most important pieces of your championship team. Meanwhile, over here, I'm sure you've already heard about we lost Chicharito for the rest of the season, and the nature of his injury, people were saying it might even be a career-ending injury, especially at his age, because it takes a really long time to recover from that. And for him to be able to play at the same level at which he's accustomed to playing, it's really hard, especially somebody that pushes himself as much as he does. So Galaxy, he was actually having a very difficult time this season. I don't know. I mean, I know, Karina, you said you don't follow MLS as closely as Liga MX, but Chicharito was not the same Chicharito he was last year. He came into the season, and before he left with the injury, he only had 1 goal and 1 assist in MLS play, which is completely not what we expect from him. And while losing him has been hard, the more worrying thing is that nobody has been able to step in and provide a consistent level of offense for LA Galaxy. Last season, we had a Serbian international, Dejan Jovilic, who's really young. He's only 23, I think, 22, 23. And he would come off the bench and score just these fantastic goals, so much energy. The guy is very intelligent. He's actually a ranked as one of the top chess players in the world. He's a chess champion, very cerebral. And he even said at one point, "I am the future of LA Galaxy." And people were very excited about what would happen once Chicharito's tenure with LA Galaxy was over, and seeing how the team would transition into having somebody like Dejan Jovilic take over as forward. But when the season started, Chicharito was on the bench. He hurt his hamstring in a preseason game. So they had him, they just had him there relaxing and waiting until he was 100%. In the meantime, people were like, "Oh, this is it. This is your opportunity, Dejan. Let's see what you can do." And he scored like a really weird goal in the very first game of the season. And after that, nada. It just went bone dry for him. And people were wondering, like, what is it? Is it because the offense was set up for Chicharito's style? Is it because he's being asked to do something different? Is he not feeling comfortable? Is it a confidence thing? One of the things that I noticed about him was that usually he's the kind of guy, you give him the ball at the top of the 18 and he turns, he faces the goal, and he runs up and he tries to create something out of nothing. And one of the things that I noticed about him this season was that they gave him the ball in the same spot, and then he would just pass it back to somebody and then try to get into position, when instead of like turning around and doing what he's used to doing. So either somebody got in his ear and told him something, or he just confidence issue. Whether it's him, one of our rookies, Judd, I forgot his name. Preston Judd. The team has just had a really difficult time finding a consistent flow of offense. And this is where you have somebody like Ricky Puig step up and really take the spotlight, because he isn't expected to be scoring like he is. But when you don't have somebody up top that's easy, providing that kind of offense, he really shines. And then we have another winger called Tyler Boyd, who stepped up as well. But like I said, as far as like a striker, a center forward, Galaxy is really struggling in that respect. This is where Leagues Cup comes in. And I was telling the guys in our last pod, this is an opportunity for Dejan Jovilic to step into a situation where, hey, let's see what you can do against a quality opponent like Leon. And maybe this is what you need. You need to face somebody that's different, not an MLS team, but somebody from international opposition that is not going to hold back on you, and see what you can do. And we talked about this before we came on. Somebody like Efrain Alvarez, who we saw come into the team with a lot of promise, and we saw Zlatan Ibrahimovic talk about him, lauding what this guy could do. And I feel like he has plateaued. And it's not just me. You talk to a lot of different people that follow the team, other pods, they'll say the same thing. It feels like he plateaued. He lives here in LA. He grew up here in LA. I feel like he has gotten so comfortable to his, to his mom's home cooking, to, having a job, right? When you have a job and you're very comfortable with what you do and you don't have to do too much, you become comfortable and you be stagnate. And I feel like he's gotten to that point. I feel like it's time for him to move on, find greener pastures. But for that to happen, he has to show his quality. And this is where his Leagues Cup comes in. And it's like, okay, kid, step out there, show what you can do. If you're going to find a home in Liga MX, which is what we expect him to do eventually, do it against Leon and see what you can do. So this is one of the things that we're looking forward to. Obviously, we're not in Greg Banny's head, and we're not going to try and predict what his lineup is going to be tomorrow, but I expect FR to be out there. I expect Dayon to be out there, and maybe there are other players that haven't had an opportunity to really shine in MLS play, and this is an opportunity for them to step up and do something in this tournament. Maybe something similar for Leon, you think?
No, I expect us to use our regular first choice starting 11, the best players available. That's pretty much how it was against Vancouver. We don't. I mean, I think Leon would like to see this tournament be just a continuation of Liga MX and an easy transition back into Liga MX play. I mean, I don't think they're going to take this as an opportunity to experiment. I mean, I just think they view these as other standard regular matches to play, and they're going to put out their best choice 11. I mean, I don't really have any reason to think any different. I mean, this is a team that still aspires. I mean, that has already tasted greatness in recent months and is aspiring towards more of it. And no, unfortunately, I mean, it might be cool to see some of our lesser utilized youngsters and players, which we do have some on the roster, get a chance. I just don't expect that. I mean, this is not. I mean, if from our point of view, maybe you disagree, Kari, but if Larcamon is doing anything other than using his top choice 11, if he's doing any sort of experimentation or anything like that, or trying to give underperforming players a chance, then he's not doing his job. I don't know what you think about that, Kari, but I know I fully expect to see top choice 11 going for the win tomorrow, especially because 3 points for Leon tomorrow assures them of winning the group.
No, I agree with you. I think we talked about it when leading up to the CCL final of how, for the past couple of years, we've had the same base of players and that they know each other, they know how to play around each other. We've had a few components here and there, but for the most part, it's the same base de jugadores. So we expected them to play, their hearts out and go all in. And I even said it, if we don't win the CCL final against LAFC, it's a fracaso for Leon for the season because, it was just an expectation that we had because we know the talent that we had and we still have. We've had ups and downs and mostly downs in CCLs, and I had no expectations. And it was funny because on the pod we kept saying every week, like one game at a time. So I was really content and surprised, but in the good way, that Larcamon was the perfect fit for Leon and carrying this team out for the CCL final. So I think, like Louis said, we have strong starting 11. I mean, Larcamon has always done that. I trust in him, every single game to put the best out there. So obviously, with the exception of Davila tomorrow, which I think. What do you think, Louis? Platano might fit in or?
Yeah, he didn't play at all against Vancouver. He wasn't even on the match day squad. I don't know what the deal was with that, but he is the most natural choice to slot in. We still don't know. Our major signing in the offseason was ex-America player Federico Viñas, who hasn't really established himself yet, mostly due to a lingering injury that he had dating back to last season. He did see a few minutes against Tigres in our final league match before departing for Leagues Cup. He was available on the bench against Vancouver, but did not play. He could be another choice. I mean, I don't expect him to start, but he could see some minutes. And our other, not less touted, but still important signing of Borja Sanchez from coming over from Spain, from Real Oviedo. he played a good 15, 20 minutes. Didn't do too well in the penalty shootout, but had some good minutes against Vancouver. He could be another option too. We do have. I mean, this is one of the things that made letting go of Davila, while still painful, but also tolerable, because we do have some guys that we are trying to work in. So, I mean, I think in that sense, it could be kind of similar like to Galaxy trying to work in some guys. We are trying to work in some guys, but I think the ultimate goal is different. I mean, these aren't youngsters who've been underperforming or complacent. I mean, these are new elements that are highly touted, and that we're trying to get them acclimated and see if they can push our team even to a greater level than we've already had. So in that sense, yeah, we may be working in some new guys, but not for the same reasons.
Yeah. July 26th, on a Wednesday, our LA Galaxy take on Club León in Carson. Gotti, what are some of the key factors that León has to do in order to beat the LA Galaxy at home? And what are some of the key factors where, you guys might be weaker in?
Ooh, that's a good question. Well, I think I'll start with a strength or a player for you guys to watch out for, which is Ivan Moreno. Which, based from last season, we were able to fully acquire these players: Ivan Moreno, Platan Alvarado, and Paul Belon. So definitely Ivan Moreno. Very, very, he's just a very exciting player to watch. He's a menace. I mean, you'll see him play his normal position as a right back, and then you'll see him up in the last attacking third trying to score a goal. I mean, he's just an outstanding player. As well as Lucas Romero. Lucas Romero, I mean, he's tough. He'll fight every single ball. He's just what we needed for so long post Pedro Aquino, who went to America and now is with Santos. And we needed a player to cover that position, and Lucas Romero definitely has. But yeah, I mean, I think we have everything. I mean, I'm not saying we don't have weaknesses, because I think our weakness was our left back, which I think me and Lou are very content that has been situated with Left Camon this season or the last couple of games, which was Osby. Osby is the type of player that can help, but they can do a lot of damage to your own team. He's a liability, but you guys probably won't be able to encounter that.
Hopefully he doesn't play against Galaxy.
I was going to ask, what formation does León usually employ?
I mean, it switches. Sometimes he likes using a backline of cinco. Sometimes he goes with the traditional 4-4-2. The problem is, it's funny, you guys were talking about lack of finishing or lack of a center forward since Chicharito went down. That's kind of, if León had one big weakness at this very moment, I would say it's that too. We let the closest thing we had to a titular indiscutible at the center forward position go to Pachuca at the end of the season. That was Lucas Di Iorio, who scored the not officially the winning goal in the series against LAFC, but spiritually the nail in the coffin in that series. That was his last game for León. Shortly, well, his traspaso to Pachuca was already negotiated before that match, so it was kind of strange. Very bittersweet in that moment to see him score that goal, because we knew he was already going to be leaving. But even he was very, very up and down in the 2 seasons that he played with León. So, I mean, we just haven't had, I say, since JJ Macias, have we really had a reliable option at the number 9 position. And before him, since Boselli, those were the last 2 real, honest to goodness target strikers, number 9 elite finishers that we've had up top. And since then, I mean, it's kind of been scoring by committee. I mean, there's an advantage to that. You never know where the goals are coming from. Like Ari was talking about Ivan Moreno. He's a right back who never loses his mark, but somehow for long stretches of the game is one of our biggest scoring threats, if not the biggest scoring threat, which is cool. It's nice that you have that you have a right back who has those que tenga gol, that has those abilities. But it would be nice if he weren't tasked with that as frequently as he seems to be. We had a legit target striker, and also more than one person who could put in a decent cross besides Elias Hernandez. So I mean, those are two of our weaknesses. It's been goal scoring by committee, and thankfully through that CCL run, it worked enough to where we got the goals we needed to get the job done. But obviously, we can go through stretches where it's like, oh, okay, we're generating a ton, but where is that goal going to come from? Where is the finishing going to come from? So it's just funny you guys were talking about that, because I felt like I was looking in the mirror when you guys were talking about that, because that has been a major issue for us as well over the past, I mean, basically 2 or 3 years. I mean, even when Gigliotti,
discussion.
I mean, you can say Gigliotti. Maybe Gigliotti was that guy. We have fond memories of him because of the goals he scored both in the Leagues Cup final and in the last Liga MX final that we won against Pumas. But he really wasn't the answer either. We haven't had a true answer. We haven't had a true answer in that position since JJ Macias, and our memories of him are not fond because of the way he left for Chivas and then descended into oblivion.
Edgar, same question. Well, I won't say what's our key factors for us winning, because I don't think we're gonna win. Well, where do you see our biggest fault is? I don't think so. I think this tournament should be a scratch, to be honest. And I think all the kids are going to play. We're not going to see any of the starters. But if we do see the starters, how do you see us coming out with a result against a very good Club Leon?
Well, before we get into that, I just want to take the time to tell you guys about a wonderful gentleman that we have on our club, a guy named Efrain Alvarez. He's fantastic. He's got the Zlatan seal of approval, and he's already playing for Mexico. And I think that his next step is to go to Liga MX. And if you guys want him, we'll throw in a McDonald's franchise. We call him Chicky Nuggies. I mean, this guy is amazing. He's going to be a club legend for Leon. He's going to help you guys win another Champions League.
You say it in jest, but in Larcamon's system, I wouldn't doubt it, to be quite honest. I mean, we were talking before about Ivan Moreno. He was a journeyman. He hadn't found any sort of continued success in anywhere he'd been prior. He gets to Leon and is instantly one of the top 2 or 3 right backs in Liga MX, if not number 1. Underrated, obviously, because we're the equipo incómodo. Like, no one is ever going to rate our players highly. The Liga MX is uncomfortable with how well we do. They'd prefer to just only need to talk about America and Chivas and Cruz Azul,
Tigres
and of course Tigres at this point, and Monterrey. And we just we keep doing well, and they keep having to talk about us, and it's annoying to them. So they're never going to rate our players more highly than they absolutely have to. But if Efrain Alvarez somehow ended up in Leon, I bet he would do well.
I hope so. Take him.
It's
right
funny
now.
for the
maybe not right now. I think we're good right now.
Take him right now for tomorrow.
Take him now.
I mean, he can fit in any other Liga MX club. I think right now, don't disturb what's going on in Leon. I'm good.
Back to the question, Edgar. How do we get results?
Well, you guys were talking earlier about some of the the transfers that you were hoping would happen, and because the transfer window just closed, right? I don't know if you guys heard about what happened with us. Our former team president got caught cheating with an MLS rules, and because of that, LA Galaxy was fined $1 million and was banned from making any summer transfers at all. So, where in the past the team has done well to get some good summer transfers to improve the club and make runs deep into the season and get into the playoffs, this season we did not have that luxury at all. So while we were looking at Inter Miami bringing everyone and their mom right to the club, Galaxy, we're just sitting there like, damn, we can really use a transfer right now because we've had so many injuries. We had, like I said, we talked about the Chicharito injury. We've also had injuries recently to one of our best midfielders in Mike Delgado. He suffered an injury. I think it was against Vancouver, was it?
Yeah, ankle injury.
Yeah, ankle injury. It was like no contact too. So he got hurt. We're really worried about him. Hopefully he's able to recover soon. Before that, though, one of the most concerning injuries we talked about Chicharito. He tore his ACL. So obviously that's very difficult way back, but one of the biggest issues this team has had in years past was the defense. Manager Greg Banny used to play defense for the LA Galaxy in the early years of the club, and his mentor, Captain Dan Kalishman, the first Galaxy captain, was also a defender, and they're both on the coaching staff of the club. And they made a concerted effort to rebuild this club from the back going forward. And so, for the last year or two, we've seen this team come together, on defense to the point where, in the past, they would get completely destroyed. Now, it's just losing games by a goal or two, right? So, but the important thing is that they managed to build a defense that is actually kept the team in there and given the offense an opportunity to try to figure something out. Unfortunately, one of the more reliable players that we had in the past is Uruguayo Martín Cáceres, who's played for Uruguay and he's played for them in 4 World Cups. He recently also messed up his knee. He shattered his kneecap, I think, in a game about a month ago, and so he's out for the season. And he was paired up with who we consider the most consistent defender we have on this team, 19-year-old Jalen Neal, who is a former he is a future U.S. national team superstar. We're seeing him develop, and at an amazing rate. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with a former U.S. player named Eddie Pope, who also played defense.
Sure.
Very solid, stoic, unflappable guy. This is Jalen Neal. He's 19, and you're gonna hear about him in years to come. But we have him right now in the LA Galaxy, and he's been our most consistent defender. He was gone for a portion of the summer playing in the Gold Cup, but there's other defenders we have on here that have helped the team. We have our two wing backs. We have a wing back from Brazil, and Lucas Calegari, who just likes to go by Calegari. And he's got a flair, that jogo bonito in him, and he's also will come up, but he's very good on defense as well. And then for a while we had a kid from Argentina. He came over from Lanús, named Julian Aude, and he's kind of fallen off a bit. He had a tragedy in his family right before coming over to the club, and we think that might be affecting him, or the transition over to MLS is kind of rough sometimes, especially when you're used to being at home. He was playing for Lanús, like I said, in Argentina, and he's also young. He's 22, and Calegari, the guy I mentioned earlier, he's 23. So we have a very young back line, and because we lost our center back, and then one of our other center backs also got hurt, we're down to using one of our wing backs, Kevin Leerdam, who plays for Suriname. He's playing at center back, and he's done an okay job so far. The team tried to bring in anybody. They worked on a trade with New York City FC, bring in a defender. What's his name? Brian. He's fairly new.
Chris Bavinga?
No, the guy from New York City.
Damn.
See, he's so new. We forgot his name because they got him, and then boom, the season was put on pause. Well, Brian finds that out. I'm going to keep talking about the team. But one of the things that we were very proud of with this club is our midfield. Like I said, we had Mark Delgado, who unfortunately is hurt now. So we don't know who's going to step up and fill his role. But we have Ricky Puig, who I don't know if you guys heard of. He used to play for he grew up playing in La Masia in Barcelona's academy. Young guy. He's small in stature, but he has a huge heart. He's one of those guys that he has the dog in him, right? If you heard that before. And we also have, in addition to him, Gaston Brugman, also from Uruguay. He works as a CDM, but he's also a kind of guy who falls back and helps the defense every now and then. And then at wing, we have Tyler Boyd, and then we have the Brazilian enigma, who we know as Douglas Costa. We call him Summer Costa because he's so weird. Oh man, he's supposed to be one of our designated players, one of our marquee players, and he starts off the seasons like really not really caring, and then the summer comes around and he just transforms into a different beast. And for the last few weeks, we've seen him really play hard, but it could also be the fact that back in Brazil, there's a warrant out for his arrest for not paying alimony. So, not wanting to get arrested will make you really play hard to stay in your current club, right? So, he's one of our wings. And then up top, like I said, it's a big enigma. Dejan Joveljic, Preston Judd. I don't know. I really don't know who's gonna be up there. But we were really looking forward to seeing Jalen Neal come back. He suffered a slight injury with the U.S. in the Gold Cup at the very end, but we're really hoping he comes back and he's healthy. Um, I really don't know how El Galaxy would be able to beat Leon unless, like you said, it's scoring by committee. So any offense would have to come through Ricky Puig. One of the things that teams always do to disrupt him because he's small in stature is just put a body on him and get really physical with him and really disrupt his play. It's something that affects him and even gets under his skin sometimes. And then we have, like I said, we have a very young defense, and they're liable to make minor mental mistakes, but usually aren't costly. But a team like Leon would obviously make them pay. So it's something to look forward to in the match to see how these guys adjust to playing with a team of this caliber. Julian, I mean, like I said, Jalen Neal just came from playing in the Gold Cup. He was one of the better players for the U.S. So hopefully he brings that same level with him. And that's about it. I mean, our bench is pretty thin. Like I said, we have emerging Liga MX superstar and Efrain Alvarez, on the bench. Hopefully, he gets a start, so you guys can see, the amazingness that he is. But I don't know. What do you think, Brian?
There's no correct answer because our strongest point of attack is our midfield, and we have Marc Delgado out with an ankle injury, and he's key to what they do pushing forward. Who do you sub in there to do the same work? I don't think we have the personnel to compete in this tournament. It just seems to me, Vanny, of course, talked about him wanting to take this tournament serious, but he has to say that to motivate his team somehow. But he's really not going to put out his best. It's going to be a bunch of kids, which I don't mind. But for us to actually get a result, I don't see it. I don't see the LA Galaxy coming out with any result. And if they do, that's going to be the biggest surprise for me this season, especially because of all the injuries that we have already and seeing how this tournament, I don't know. I'm not taking it serious. I don't think Vanny is either. So have at it, guys. Here's 3 points. Go ahead.
I mean, I have no problem. I have no problem thinking that Leon is favored in this match. They probably are. But we are capable of some boneheaded mistakes.
Yeah.
The two goals we gave up against Vancouver were both the result of boneheaded mistakes by normally very sure-footed and sure-minded defenders. Well, except the second one was a lot on Osvi, and he's not sure anything. But our back line is enigmatic. They were the best statistically in terms of goals allowed. They were the best defense in Liga MX last season, and for 85 out of 90 minutes every match, they look untouchable. No sabes por dónde. Like, how are you going to get past these guys? They don't let anything through. I mean, you're talking about Frias, you're talking about Barreiro, you're talking about El Perro Romero is part of that too. And Tecillo, of course, our captain, and the one who's normally slotting into that left back role now, even though he can also play as a center back, but he's probably our best left back, so he's been playing there. Most of the time, you just don't know how you're going to get past these guys. But it seems like anytime they make one mistake, it costs a goal. Like, I don't know how this is. For 85 out of 90 minutes, they're rocks. They're rock solid. You're not getting anything past them, getting much less through them, by them. You're not gonna outrun them. You're not gonna do anything. But then they make one boneheaded play, and invariably there's no turning back. It costs us a goal. If that happens, that's how you're gonna beat us. I'll tell you right now. That is the way you're gonna beat us. If that happens,
luck.
if that happens, anyone's got a shot against us.
Well, let's get into some predictions. Gotti, you guys are coming to Carson. How do you see this going?
Oh,
be nice.
That's a good one. Be nice.
Nah.
No,
Records,
to be honest, I thought we were gonna lose against Vancouver in penalties. I really did. I said Cota's not at his 100% as we know. I was like, we're gonna lose, and now we have to get a we're
not good at penalty shootouts in general. We got a lot of bad memories in recent PK shootouts until this one. We finally broke the curse with this one.
We improved a lot.
Having to take so many and scoring so many. I think that if we play more penalty shootouts going forward in the tournament, I think that will have helped.
We should be good. Yeah, we should be good in penalties. Just let it go to penalty.
As long as they don't go to penalties.
Just quick, going back to what Louis said. Good. Just quick. If you guys were to score first, the thing that sometimes Leon lacks is having a sense of urgency to come back. Just because in games they've had where they generate a lot of opportunities and they don't end up putting it back into the net, and then the other team scores, and then now Leon's like, oh, we have to score now. So if anything, if you guys score first, we need to have that sense of urgency to come back and score, which sometimes we have lacked in other games, and me and Carlos have talked about it during the pod. But tomorrow, I'm gonna say 2-1 Leon.
That was nice. Thank you.
Is that being nice?
That was nice. That was like looking in the mirror, like, because if we go down first, same thing. That sense of urgency, and now without players that we need, it's gonna be even tougher. What about you, Lou? What you think?
I was gonna say 2-1. Also, Kari stole mine, and now I went on our podcast in prediction time. She always lets me go before her. So now the shoe's on the other foot, and I cannot say 2-1. I have to come up with a different prediction. I'll go with 3-1. I think Leon goes up early, and I think they'll have one boneheaded mistake that results in a goal, or maybe they give up a penalty or something like that. They'll find a way to let one in. But I think they'll have a chip on their shoulder after all this controversy about their flight and everything, and people are going to expect them to like be at a disadvantage because of that. Oh, they're going to be tired. They're not going to be mentally, they're not going to be in the game mentally, emotionally because of all that. And no, I think it's going to cause them to have a chip on their shoulder. And like, okay, if we have to go down there after all this still, then we might as well win. We might as well win convincingly. So I think it'll be a 3-1 win. I do expect there to be a ton of Leon fans in attendance. Sadly, I will not be one of them in this instance, nor will our podcast mate Carlos, who had tickets for the game. Shout out to Carlos, who's probably listening right now. I hope he is. He had tickets for the game, and then as a result of its rescheduling, he will not be able to go. We were going to have we will have a representative spiritually in the stands in our occasional podcast mate Jose, who I believe should still be in attendance there. So we will have some representation. I do expect it to be a pretty packed house with Leon fans, as it usually is in the LA area, and I think that will play a role too. And I expect Leon to get the job done 3-1.
Edgar, same question. How bad is this going to go for us?
I mean, it could get really bad, depending on the mental situation of the team. But like we were talking about, like they've had some time off. It's not like they're coming off some grueling travel, or they've had to play a lot of matches over the past week. I want to say 3-1 Leon. But I'm wondering, like, who the hell's going to score for us? It would have to be Ricky Puig or Tyler Boyd scoring another banger. That's what all he does. All he does is score bangers, man. But I don't know if at a level like Leon, like you guys said, the defense is pretty solid. I don't know how that they're going to let that happen. But I'm going to be a positive Pete. I'm going to say 3-1 Leon. Galaxy, scores one just to send everybody home feeling like a little warm and fuzzy. And Leon's going to get a nice warm reception, obviously, in LA. But I'm looking forward to an entertaining match. It's been a while since we had some Galaxy football, so it'll be nice to be back in the stadium and enjoy a nice match, with a different flavor than we're used to. Yeah, that's what I think. Brian, did you already?
Seeing that I don't want to see this team take this tournament serious, why not get steamrolled 5-0? We're getting thrashed at home. Why not? Why not? It makes no sense for this team to happen. It makes no sense for this team to.
I don't think that's going to happen either. But I would be sad if it did, to be honest, because I'm not going to be there to see it.
Yeah, this is just one of those tournaments I don't think the LA Galaxy should be going for. Just play the kids. Don't get Ricky injured in these type of games. We're gonna need him long term and short term. Yeah, I mean 5-0. Why not? Let's do it.
Not
And
even one goal.
nah, who's gonna score it? Chicha off the bench from his
We
hospital
wheel him
bed?
out there like in the wheelchair.
All right, Chicha, this is your time to shine.
I mean, seeing a lot of Timbers Galaxy games over the years, I wouldn't put it past Jovic. I'm always scared of him.
Yeah, and the predictions have given the LA Galaxy a 43% chance of winning.
Who makes these up?
I don't know. I think maybe because of the delay that Leon had and the tinfoil hats are coming out, but I don't know how that's even possible. 43% of LA Galaxy winning. All right, I guess. But anyway, so we're all pretty much predicting Leon winning, which is how I had it to begin with. We actually have some questions and some comments from our Instagram. From GK13, Efra MVP this season, since we have so many injuries. Sure, go to Leon. RPD Raza 83. Do you think the LA Galaxy will actually try in Leagues Cup? No. Edgar?
I like to think that they're like I said, just have some fun with this. Throw out the kids and
Throw out the kids.
Take Dejan Jovic, put him inside a cage. Don't feed him for a couple of days and shake his cage, poke him with a stick, and then just let him loose on the field. See what happens.
Logan Jones. Taylor Twellman, whenever he sees Messi touch the ball. Eggplant emoji. That's very graphic there, sir.
Yeah, pretty much.
He's not wrong.
That does it for the questions and comments. Before we leave, I actually wanted to ask you guys about your guys' podcast. How'd you guys come together?
Yeah.
Where it all started? Tell us a little bit about you guys.
It's interesting. I was talking to Edgar, and Edgar was telling me his whole story, and when he said how long have you guys had a podcast, and I'm like trying to calculate because it's been a while, but it was 2019. Obviously there's a Liga MX community on Twitter, and I saw that other people were trying to get a pod out for Liga MX team, which, as we know, Liga MX teams kind of lack having that exposure for the Mexican Americans that live in the US and not having actual legit accounts. So obviously at that point, Leon didn't have one, and I didn't see any type of Leon podcast in English. So through the Liga MX community on Twitter, I was able to connect with Jose and Carlos. Shout out to Jose and Carlos. And I pitched them the idea to get together and start a Leon podcast. And they were on board. So we started our podcast, and not too long after, Louis sent me a message on Twitter about the podcast and if he could come on, and we had him come on, and ever since then he stayed. And shout out to Javi as well. Ever since Javi has come, he's been up and down with us because obviously we all have lives, but definitely became part of the pod. And yeah, I mean, we've been since 2019. It's been a long journey. We have been able to have Marcelo Balboa on the
nice.
That's tight.
On a couple of podcasts. That was really cool, really fun. I think it was for Leagues Cup, if I remember. Was it, Louis?
No, it was for CCL. It was for
CCL?
the.
Who are we facing?
I think it was the second CCL that we did. Well, he came on twice. Once I don't remember if there was a specific reason or if we just reached out to him. And obviously he's a Club Leon, if not a legend, definitely a referente. I mean, he's somebody that is still very, very looked upon with plenty of cariño in the fan base.
Yeah.
And obviously he's a voice in English and in Spanish for football in general, but especially MLS and also Liga MX still occasionally. And so, yeah, that was probably our high point. My story with the podcast is a little. I mean, my story in general with this team is unconventional. At points for long stretches of time, I'm the only one with no Mexican blood or ancestry in my system, but also the only one living in Mexico. Obviously, Kari is now too. But for the longest time, I was the only one who was, which was very, very strange. It was kind of this reverse phenomenon. Everybody else, is más mexicano que el mole, and I'm just not. But I'm living down there. I've been living in Guanajuato area since 2012. I'm a musician. I'm a symphony orchestra musician. I got a job playing trombone in the symphony orchestra of the University of Guanajuato, and I've been doing that since 2012.
That's fire.
That's what I studied to do. That's my main thing. But live sports in general, starting with, I'm originally from Portland, Oregon, born and raised in Portland, Oregon, starting with the Blazers and then eventually the Timbers and the Seattle Mariners, Seahawks, teams like that. I grew up with those teams. I've always needed to have live sports in my life. When I moved to Guanajuato, I very slowly, casually at first started paying attention to León, and it just grown and grown and grown and grown. And over a few years, I started traveling to pretty much every match they played, developed a following on social media for my exploits. And then at one point in 2019, I was just like, gee, I wonder if there's any English language content about Club León, because if there is, I mean, I would certainly be an asset to that, or at least that's what I thought at the time. And it just so happened that Kari and Carlos and Jose had started this podcast. I mean, I don't know how many episodes into it they were, but not very many when I discovered this. And so I wasn't there from the very, very, very beginning with this podcast, but I was there almost from the beginning. And like I said, I mean, we feel like we've got a good chemistry. We've been pretty constant with it. We're very, we're diligent about putting out shows when the season is going on. And whenever anything important happens with the club, we try to be there. And we slowly built up, a small audience. We're contributing to this small but growing and flourishing and burgeoning Liga MX in English community, and we're part of that. And we have a few loyal followers, not very many, but we do this because we love it, because we love the team, and our perspectives are unique and interesting. And I try to be at every match. I'm at almost every match for Club León. I make that a priority in my life. I'm there at almost every single one. I will not be there tomorrow, unfortunately, for this Galaxy match, but not being there is much less common than being there. If León moves on, I'm going to do my best to be at their first elimination game, wherever that might be. We still don't know. And I always try to generate a little bit of content and generate following for the pod and for the community, the Liga MX community in English in general. And that's kind of how it happened.
Beautiful, especially from a Liga MX team that most fans are Spanish speakers, and you guys giving it to everybody in English from your side, and that's a pretty cool perspective to have. It'd be dope if we had something like that with the LA Galaxy, a Spanish podcast in the LA Galaxy. I see your guys' podcast is pretty cool. That's pretty cool. I mess with that.
Hey, we can do it. Noticias a través de la galaxia.
No, hombre.
Del Galaxy, no de la galaxia.
We've thought about doing some at points. We've thought about working in some Spanish content too, but we've just ultimately decided against it because there's already. I mean, it's not necessarily particularly the greatest always Spanish content about Club León. A lot of amarillismo and just a lot of stuff that's not really necessarily like looking out for the best interests of providing news about the team. But we really want to. We are the only Club León in English content really that's consistent, and so we really want to stick to that being our brand.
You guys have something really special, and I really think that you guys should nurture it and grow with it, and you're gonna get your followers. I really feel like that because you have something really unique. And credit to all of you for sticking with this and embracing your club, and like you said, you mentioned not just a love for your sport, right? But something we all share is like a love for the sport, right? This beautiful game. So, and I also wanted to point out, I empathize with you, Louis, because I'm not Mexican born, but I'm a big Club America fan. I'm actually from Nicaragua. I was raised here in LA, and Rio America. So, I feel you, man.
I mean, at this point, I've been to almost 350 live Club León matches. So
I'll get to number one day.
So if anybody questions my cred at this point, I mean, I just show them the stats. I have them in a spreadsheet, like all the matches, like what competition it was, where it was, how many stadiums I've been to. I've been to now 37 stadiums watching with Club León in six different countries.
Oh, that's beautiful.
So
that's dope. That's really cool.
Louis has a good memory. Whenever we're on the pod with thinking about a game, and Louis could tell you like where it was, who scored.
I mean,
and, like,
every game I've been to has had a profound effect on me in some way, and so it helps me like helps me keep track of my life.
Retain that information.
Like when was so what was going on in my life when Club Leon played that match at that month and that year? That's kind of how I put things into perspective in my life.
That's how you bookmark it.
Oh, and by the way, I just remembered something because you mentioned you guys had Marcelo Balboa on the pod, obviously Leon, former Leon player. When I first, I told you I used to cover MLS since '97.
Mm-hmm.
I remember like way back then, one of my favorite USA players was Eric Winalda. And when he was San Jose Clash came down and played against the Galaxy, I went into the visitors dressing room because I really wanted to meet him. And we started talking, and at first it was just like soccer, MLS talk, whatever. But then I asked him about his relationship with Mexico, the Mexican team, and he was like, "Oh, I love Mexico." It's like I played for León, and he was telling me, he was telling me about his time in León and how he learned so much about the footballing culture down there compared to how it is here in the U.S. and how he developed an appreciation for it, and it helped him whenever the U.S. played Mexico have a different perspective on how those matches would play out and what it meant to the Mexican fans. So I thought that was fascinating.
Absolutely, yeah. He's not. I don't think he's remembered as much or quite as fondly as Marcelo Balboa because he just didn't play for León as long. But I mean, obviously, those are two very, very, very important names. I know Kari is not. We will not get into this discussion because we'll get triggered. Kari is a big L3 fan. I am a USMNT fan. We'll just leave it at that. But I am honored to have had not just one, not two, but if we include Landon Donovan, 3 of the most important players in USMNT history suit up for León at one point in their careers. Yeah.
El pinche Donovan.
Mexico's another team, baby.
Well, now that I think of it, that's the one player that is the link between our two franchises.
Yes, that is a
Donovan's paso por León was not a long one, nor was it a successful one.
No.
But Donovan played.
But it was
León.
Interesting.
Yeah,
it was fun. It was fun.
I mean,
it was even fun for us.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember I was during that time I was in Guanajuato visiting family, and I was watching a game, and normally like we tweet during the games, and I had tweeted something about him, and I looked at my DMs and I had like a DM from Landon Donovan. I was like, is this for real or like what is this? Like, is this that? Yeah. And he was like, hey, like I saw your, cause I was talking about him and because he had subbed in a León game and how he was playing, and he had messaged me, and I was like, what? So that was like my oh my God moment. But yeah, it was short. His journey was short in León, but I stick with that. He was a very nice guy. And he DM'd me about my, he appreciated my comments of him during the game and whatnot. That was cool.
Yeah. Hey, we love Landon Donovan in León too. We were rooting for him to do well out there. Unfortunately, it didn't happen, but we were rooting for him.
Yeah. It was such a flawed version of the team in general. There wasn't a lot of opportunity for him to succeed.
Yeah. All right, guys. So where can I find you guys? You guys plug in your socials, plug in everything you guys have going on with you guys.
Definitely. So if you guys want to watch more me and Louis talk about León, as we do, we try and pod at least once a week. So you can catch either Monday, Wednesday, Thursday at the Lions Den Pod on Twitter, on YouTube, Apple Podcast. Shout out to Javi, Jose, and Carlos, our other co-host from the Lions Den Podcast. We've been on this journey for a long time, and we definitely appreciate having a space to talk about everything León. We're always messaging on our WhatsApp chat about what's going on, and we definitely, bring that to the pod. So you can follow me at Gary_Torres7 on Twitter if you want to just see me. I usually retweet anything Liga MX, anything interesting, but definitely tweet during the game. So you can definitely catch me there.
Yeah. So my Twitter handle is just my full name, Louis R.S. Olnick. But really, if you search for hashtag Fiero Viajero, you'll find me. I mean, I have that on every single one of my posts on Twitter, I believe, because I pretty much only post about the team on there. So if you search for that, you'll find me. You'll find me on Twitter. You'll find me on Instagram. You'll even find me on Threads now. So So yeah, just search for hashtag Piero Viajero. I'll be there, or at Louis R.S. Olnick or at Louis Olnick. You'll find me there.
Oh, also, if anybody that is interested in following Club Leon in English content, one of our hosts, Carlos, runs the Club Leon English unofficial, not the official, but the unofficial, but is always posting anything Club Leon related, always tweets during the games. If anybody's missing a match, definitely follow the account to keep you updated with all the Leon content during this Leagues Cup. But, yeah.
So I'm going to stall a bit until we get Bryant back on. As you guys saw, Bryant, he was having issues with his laptop. And there he is. He's back. But we want to thank you so much for joining us. I know I emailed Gotti earlier, I think last week or Friday. I forget when it was, but when I didn't hear back from you guys, I was like, that's too bad. I really wanted to get the Leon perspective on this, and then I just happened to hear back from her, and I was like, all right, let's make this happen. And there was a lot of wheels that had to move, a lot of gears that had to grind, but here we are, and we really, really appreciate you guys coming on. It means a lot to us. You guys are always welcome in our pod. You guys are always welcome to come, at the stadium. Music Across the Galaxy, it has room for Leon, so you guys are always here.
No, thank you guys for having us, and doing these kind of collaborations is part of growing our community and growing our brand and everything. And if one thing we can probably all agree on about Leagues Cup is it gives us the opportunity to do things like this. I mean, I think that there's nothing negative about that. That is an absolute positive. We've done a few smaller collaborations with some podcasts. Javier and I were on an LAFC one before the CCL final. We've talked with people from Toronto FC, from Founders, like when we played against them in previous CCLs. But I feel like this is one of the most extensive and exhaustive ones that we've done. And hopefully we can do more things like this in the future. And hopefully this Leagues Cup, if they keep doing it year after year, gives us more and more opportunities to do this sort of thing.
Yeah, that'll be awesome. I'm all for it. My computer took a shit real quick, but I'm back. Are we still live?
Yes, sir.
I think we are, yeah.
Yes, we're waiting for you to come back on.
Oh, am I doing the exit?
Yes, sir.
All right, everybody, from Bryant, Edgar, Lou, and Gotti, we are out of here. And as always, keep on nagging.
Keep on nagging.
You're tuned into news across the galaxy, where they talk all things LA Galaxy with the Nag Boys. Let's start nagging.
He's actually taken a bit of a sabbatical, appearing on the pod.